The real reason you ejaculate fast isn't in your head. It's a muscle most men don't know they have. You finish in under 2 minutes, sometimes under 1. You've tried lidocaine, double condoms, thinking about baseball, and masturbating before dates so you'll last longer the second time. Nothing works for long. You've been told premature ejaculation is psychological, that you just need to relax, that it's your imagination, your genetics, or your sensitivity. All three are wrong. PE has a specific, measurable, mechanical cause, and it's not in your head. It's in a muscle most men have never heard of. And here is the part that hits you in the chest before we even get to the science. You trained for this. You did it to yourself, without knowing. Every man with PE has a near-identical origin story, even if he's never connected the dots. You started masturbating young, somewhere between 11 and 14. You did it in a place where you could be interrupted, a bathroom, a bedroom with no lock, a shower with someone home. You learned to finish fast because finishing fast was safe. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, sometimes under a minute. You did this hundreds of times a year, for years. Every single one of those sessions was a training rep for your pelvic floor. By the time you started having actual sex, the conditioning was already locked in. You weren't a beginner trying to learn how to last. You were a trained sprinter, wondering why you couldn't run a marathon. Your body had spent a decade rehearsing exactly the wrong skill. Now here is the mechanism, what you actually trained, and why it fires the way it does. Your ejaculation is not controlled by your willpower, your mindset, or how hard you can think about baseball. It is controlled by a reflex arc between two muscles in your pelvic floor, the levator ani and the bulbocavernosus. These muscles are the trigger mechanism of your orgasm. When they reach a specific contraction threshold, ejaculation fires. Not before, not after. The exact moment they hit that threshold is the exact moment you finish, and you have no conscious override. In a healthy man, there is a wide gap between the resting state of these muscles and the contraction threshold that triggers ejaculation. Stimulation gradually builds tension across that gap. It takes minutes. He can feel himself approaching the threshold and back off if he wants to. He has what physiologists call headroom, the distance between baseline tone and trigger point. You don't have headroom. Every fast session you ever did taught the levator ani to fire on a hair trigger. Every rushed finish conditioned the bulbocavernosus to engage at minimum stimulation. You systematically reduced your headroom, rep after rep, year after year, until the gap between resting and trigger collapsed almost entirely. So now, your levator ani and bulbocavernosus are sitting in a state of permanent partial contraction. They are already 80% of the way to the trigger point before your partner has even touched you. Any additional stimulation pushes you over the edge in seconds. This is what's called a hair trigger pelvic floor, and it is the actual mechanical cause of nearly every case of lifelong premature ejaculation in men under 45. You are not finishing fast because you're too aroused. You're finishing fast because there is nowhere left for the muscle to go. This is also why everything you've tried has failed. Lidocaine sprays and numbing creams. They reduce surface sensation, but the trigger isn't on the surface. It's in the deep pelvic floor muscles. You can numb the head of your penis completely and still ejaculate from internal muscle contraction. Most men who use lidocaine simply finish without sensation, which is worse than finishing with it. SSRIs prescribed off-label for PE. They chemically delay the ejaculatory reflex by suppressing serotonin reuptake. They sometimes work. They also flatten libido, blunt orgasm, cause weight gain, and create dependency. And the moment you stop taking them, the hair trigger is still there, untreated. You haven't fixed the muscle, you've drugged the signal. Double condoms. Same logic as lidocaine. Reduces friction, doesn't address the trigger. Many men still finish in 3 minutes wearing 2 condoms because the firing mechanism is internal. The squeeze technique. Your therapist taught you to grip the base of your penis when you feel close, hoping to stop ejaculation manually. This is reactive, not preventive. By the time you feel close enough to squeeze, your levator ani is already at threshold. You've also now built a sex life around constant interruption, which kills your partner's arousal and trains your body to associate sex with anxiety. Edging before sex. If I masturbate first, I'll last longer the second time. You've trained your hair trigger an extra rep that day. You've also confessed to yourself that your body doesn't work right. This is not a strategy, it's surrender dressed up as preparation. Mental tricks. Counting backward from 100. The periodic table. Baseball stats. Disturbing imagery. These don't slow the muscle. They distract you while the muscle continues to fire on its own timeline. They also make sex worse because you're not present for it. You're calculating your way through intimacy. Just relax. This is the worst advice in the entire category. Telling a man with a hypertonic pelvic floor to relax is like telling a man with a cramped calf to sprint. The relaxation he needs is not psychological, it's muscular. And the muscle in question is one he has never consciously controlled in his entire life. None of these approaches address the actual problem, because none of them touch the actual mechanism. Your levator ani and bulbocavernosus are stuck in chronic spasm. Until you decompress them and rebuild voluntary control, your headroom stays at 0 and your trigger stays on a hair. Fixing this requires a specific sequence, not random Kegels, not doing more. A protocol that respects the actual physiology. Phase 1. Decompression. Before you can train these muscles, you have to release them. This means reverse Kegels, the deliberate full release of the pelvic floor, paired with diaphragmatic breathing that down-regulates the chronic stress response, holding everything in spasm. Most men have never fully released their pelvic floor in their adult lives. The first time they do, they feel a dropping sensation they didn't know was possible. This phase alone restores measurable headroom within the first 2 weeks. Phase 2. Isolation. Once the floor can release, you train it to contract, but the right muscle in isolation with precision. Most men doing Kegels are firing their glutes, their abs, and their inner thighs simultaneously. The bulbocavernosus stays untrained because it's drowning in noise from neighboring muscles. Isolation training rebuilds direct neural control over the trigger muscle itself. Phase 3. Controlled load. Now you build the gap. Sustained contractions, graduated holds, and stimulation-paired training that teach your nervous system the difference between approaching threshold and at threshold. For the first time in your adult life, you feel the trigger coming before it fires. This is what control actually means. Not gritting your teeth, not thinking about something else, sensing the threshold approach and consciously holding the line. Phase 4. Real-world simulation. Position changes, rhythm changes, partner on top dynamics, the moments where every PE man currently collapses. You train your pelvic floor to maintain control through the exact conditions that have always destroyed it. By the end of this phase, your hair trigger is gone. Not suppressed, gone, because the muscle has been retrained. This is what Relatio is built for. A 12-week, 10-minute-a-day protocol designed around the actual mechanism of premature ejaculation. No pills, no creams, no clinic visits, no SSRIs. The 3-minute diagnostic quiz identifies how short your headroom currently is and builds the protocol around your specific level of hypertonicity. By week 2, men report holding through condom application without losing the urge to finish. By week 5, holding through position changes, including the positions that used to end them in 30 seconds. By week 8, lasting 15 minutes consistently, without mental tricks, without numbing, without pre-game masturbation. By week 12, fully integrated control. Sex becomes something you experience, not something you survive. You have spent a decade or more rehearsing the wrong reflex. The good news is that the same muscle that learned to fire fast can be retrained to hold. The bad news is that it does not happen on its own, and every additional year of hair trigger conditioning adds depth to the spasm. Take the 3-minute quiz. Find out how short your headroom is. Get the protocol that rebuilds it. Tap the link.